Minister Chan Chun Sing.
Okay, let me first thank the various members for your useful suggestions and concern for the public service. I also like to thank all my public service officers for all the hard work that they have done over the last 2 years in particular. I'm sure members of the House will agree with me that over the last 2 years, the public service has really pulled together to do 3 things concurrently and to do 3 things well. First, to maintain our current operations, to make sure that all our services to our people and our country continues to run smoothly amidst the crisis. Second, to run crisis operations, where we have to invent on the fly many of the new things that we have to do to cope with the ever-evolving virus situation. And to this end, we have to even cross-deploy officers to new roles. In fact, a few thousand officers from the public service have been cross-deployed to different positions beyond their previous normal duties in order to help out to manage the crisis. And they continue to do this even as we speak. Third, our public service officers continue to plan for the future. That notwithstanding the crisis, notwithstanding the current operations, they continue to focus on the future to make sure that we establish those conditions for us to emerge stronger and to distinguish ourselves. For all these reasons of running the 3 current operations, crisis operations, and future operations, I'd like to thank all my public service officers for all the hard work and determination to overcome. Mr. Chairman, we have heard various suggestions on how to do better for the public, how the public service can do better. Indeed, we agree with the members that we have to not rest on our laurels. The public service is always looking for better ways to make sure that we can use our finite resources and manpower. Perhaps I would just like to give some examples of how the public service has done over the last few years. First example of how we have tried to do better and use our resources more efficiently is an example from GovTech. GovTech, the GoWare platform, supports our location and eligibility-based queries. As part of our COVID-19 response, the public service agencies use GoWare as a channel to provide citizens with the locations of key services, starting with the collection of masks via Mask GoWare in 2020. Since then, we have expanded to cover 16 government initiatives today, including the recent CDC vouchers Merchants GoWare. Another example is our establishment of the Centers of Excellence, or what we call CENTEX, by leveraging on the agencies with critical science, technology, and engineering experience to build deep technical expertise and pool specialized resources across the public service. So, for example, JTC is designated as the CENTEX, or Center of Excellence for Facilities Management, and is progressively consolidating the facility management contracts for public sector-owned buildings under one integrated contract. And JTC also provides its expertise to guide the various agencies in how to structure those contracts in order for us to get value for money. A third example will be how we are bringing together more services under our integrated public service centers, or what we call Service SG centers now, which has integrated and delivered a wide range of public services across different agencies under one roof. Since 2018, the center at One Tampines Hub has expanded to provide 400 services across 19 agencies for our citizens. Citizens can now also video conference with officers from different agencies in one place. Going forward, we will extend the pilot to establish more Service SG centers within community centers. The first of 2 such service centers will open in Nee Soon Central and Kampong Chai Chee CCs. Likewise, for businesses, we have also developed a one-stop Go Business portal to provide easy-to-use, seamless, and relevant services, as well as more pro-business environment. Developed by MTI and SNDG, Go Business allows users to access information of over 300 government-to-business e-services. This year, business owners can expect a new Ghost Business dashboard that will allow them to track their license applications and access various e-advisors for recommendations on grants and other services. On Mr. Melvin Yong's point about developing the competencies for our public officers, that is indeed one of our focus going forward, especially when our public officers have a longer lifespan. There are various things that we intend to do for our public service officers for their career development in order to build up their capabilities. We intend to have greater porosity between the public sector and the outside people and private sector. But within the public sector itself, we also intend to have greater porosity between different agencies. And let me explain how we intend to do this. Excuse me. For the talent attachment programs will be extended. In fact, over the last year, we have almost doubled the number of people who have gone on the talent attachment programs. These are programs that allow our public officers to be attached to organizations outside the public service organizations so that they can establish the connections, bring back new ideas for us in the public service sector. And we'll continue to look for more opportunities for this porosity of exchanges so that we can get the best ideas from the public sector, the people sector, and elsewhere beyond the public service, including international organizations. Within the public sector itself, we also want to make sure that our officers, even if they are performing the same function in different agencies, they get opportunity to be posted across to different agencies. Because even within the same functional areas, no two agencies perform the function in exactly the same ways, and we can, of course, learn from one another. Now, beyond this, we want to make sure that as we go forward in the way we govern, we'll work closely and closer with the organizations beyond the public sector. And we want to broaden our connections with the organizations beyond the public sectors. We want to tap on their capacities and capabilities. And this is how we are also executing our plans to manage COVID. Therefore, starting from this year, we will allow each public service officer to use up to 40 hours a year to participate in development activities with the private, social, and non-profit organizations. And why do we do this? We do this for a very simple reason. We want our public service officers to first deeply understand the partners that they are working with, so that when they make the rules and regulations, they have a deep understanding of the people and organizations that they are serving. The second reason for us to do this is because we want our public service officers to make sure that they continue to learn from the sectors and organizations beyond the public service. Bring back new ideas, bring back new connections to enrich the public service itself. Last but not least, in a crisis like COVID-19, what we have demonstrated is that we depend not just on the whole of government capacity. In fact, we depend on the whole of nation capacity. When our public service officers have to go forth and make the adjustment for the crisis management operations, they bring in organizations, volunteers beyond the public service, and that helps to add to our public service capacities and capabilities. And that is why, to this end, I would want to further this connection between the public service and the sector and organizations beyond the public service, and that is why, for this year onwards, every public service officers will be able to use up to 40 hours a year to participate in development activities with the private, social, and non-profit organizations. And these opportunities can be made available by the Public Service Division and other agencies or self-source opportunities as long as the activities are developmental and do not lead to any conflict of interest. On Mr. Leong Man Wai's point, to streamline the government organization, perhaps I'd like to let Mr. Leong Man Wai know that indeed we have already done many of the things that he suggested. Where it is logical, we bring together services and facilities together. Good examples of this include Heartbeat at Bedok and our One Tampines Hub. Where it is logical and save us money and resources, we bring different agencies under one roof so that we can save money for our country and save manpower. On the other hand, we have also an asset-light model, for example, in a new generation of CCs, the one in Potong Pasir, upcoming in the Ulay development. We have integrated the CC with the commercial development so that we can operate on an asset-light model. But a more important point that Mr. Leong Man Wai asked is, what is the purpose of the People's Association? The role of the People's Association is to help us build up our social capital in peacetime. It serves the government of the day. For example, during the COVID-19 crisis, where do we get the extra capacity to reach out to do our vaccination operations, to distribute the masks, to distribute the sanitizers? Where do we get the people to go and reach out to the people who are in isolation in their homes? It didn't depend just on the PA staff. There's only about 2,000 PA staff, but there are many volunteers that we mobilize to come together. And without these capabilities and capacities, I'm not sure that we will be able to achieve the various things that we have been able to achieve during our crisis operations to manage the ongoing COVID situation. So I think for these 2 years, what we have built up assiduously over the peacetime, these social bonds, this trust, this deep network to help our people and reach out has been invaluable to Singapore. And that is not something that many other countries have, because perhaps many other countries take it for granted that the social bonds will be there. In fact, Mr. Leong might also like to know that PA works very closely with MCCY. In fact, PA, the CE of PA works very closely with the PERMSEC of MCCY. Their budget comes together. And on Mr. Leong's suggestions about MOE and working with MSF seamlessly, I would also like to inform Mr. Leong that actually I have been involved in this on both sides. Why is ACDA an agency that is reporting to both MOE and MSF? Because ACDA performs the role of taking care of the preschool children with both the education component by MOE and the care component by MSF. And this is how we flexibly configure our organizations in order to meet the needs of our people. So it's not a stovepipe mindset that we adopt going into how we structure an organizations. But having said that, we will be the first to admit that as circumstances change and evolve, we will continue to evolve our organization and structures to best meet today's needs and also to anticipate tomorrow's challenges. And we'll continue to do this. But let me finally say this. The public service, I will be the first one to say that the public service is not perfect. We are constantly guarding against complacency, and we constantly want to do better for Singapore and Singaporeans. And we will never be complacent. We will constantly check our blind spot, take in the best ideas from within this chamber, from the public service itself, and from people and organizations beyond the public service. Because our goal is to make sure that we have a public service that Singaporeans can be proud of and can do justice to the potential of Singapore and Singaporeans. And we'll continue to work on that basis to adjust and adapt flexibly according to the circumstances. And on that note, I'd like to thank all the members for your various suggestions. And if you have other suggestions on how we can do better as a public service, we'll welcome your suggestions and we'll certainly look into them. Thank you.